Hey folks, welcome to Seaway Whiskey Wire. Tonight on the bar, we've got the Johnnie Walker Black Label blended Scotch Whisky. Stay tuned. Well, hey folks, thanks for coming back after the intro. I'm Tyler, and my Budget Blend series continues. Tonight, we're going to take a look at a very iconic release from a very iconic whiskey brand. We're going to take a look at the Johnnie Walker Black Label blended Scotch Whisky. Before we get into the overview and the specs on this bottle from Diageo and Johnnie Walker, if you have yourself something from Johnnie Walker, maybe you got the black, maybe you got the double black, maybe you got a bottle of Johnnie Walker Blue, you want to pour yourself a dram and drink along with me, please do so. I encourage it. It makes life a heck of a lot better for you guys on the other end. And I enjoy you guys drinking along with me, especially when it's budget Scotch whiskey. So we'll get into a quick backstory on Johnnie Walker for those of you who aren't too familiar with the brand or the man behind the brand. So Johnnie Walker is obviously one of the most iconic Scotch whiskey brands out there, and it traces its origins back to 1820 in Kilmarnock, Scotland. And it all began when John Walker, who was a grocer, started blending his own whiskey to sell at his store. And his blend quickly gained popularity due to its consistency and quality, which was something that during that era was very rare to be found. And after John's death in 1857, his son, Alexander Walker, took over and transformed the business and introduced the distinctive square bottling and the slanted label that's prevalent in all Johnnie Walkers now. An innovation made the brand stand out on shelves and travel better during shipping. Under the guidance of subsequent generations, Johnnie Walker's expanded its reach globally, becoming synonymous with blended Scotch whiskey. And today it's owned by Diageo. Johnnie Walker is celebrated for its range of colored labels expressions such as the red, the black, the green, the gold, and the iconic blue label as well, which offer unique blends and character to all the different releases. The brand's famous "Keep Walking" slogan continues to symbolize the progress and persuasiveness of the brand around the world. And I mean, every brand, every bottle of Johnnie Walker has the walking gentleman here with a top hat and cane. That's very synonymous with it. And big brand, big house from Diageo. I haven't reviewed a Johnnie Walker on the channel yet, so we'll see what I think of this one here. But let's quickly go and take a look at the specs on the bottle here, just so we know what we're dealing with. So, like most Johnnie Walker releases, again, blended Scotch whiskey, so it's going to be a mix of single malts and grains. This particular release does carry an age stamp right on there prominently. We got a 12-year-old age stamp on the black label, and it comes in with a very standard Johnnie Walker ABV of 40%. At that level, and given the history behind Johnnie Walker, obviously it's got chill filtration, obviously there's color added to it. So it's 12-year-old single malts from Diageo's portfolio. It's said to contain whiskeys from up to 29 single malts and granaries, or grain whiskeys. Doesn't specify doesn't specify which distilleries inside Diageo's portfolio, and doesn't specify of the 29 what the percentages or what the share of how much grain whiskey versus how much single malts and what the breakdown is. It's Diageo, so it's going to be a mystery, guys. They keep a lot of this stuff to themselves, and they sell more bottles of Johnnie Walker than some other whiskey brands. So I'm not going to tell them how to do their marketing, but obviously we're going to get into it with the presentation piece here in a minute. But I really wish they would just be more upfront, honest, and forthcoming with the information, so that we can nerd out to some of the stuff they're doing. They've got a ton of great distilleries underneath their brand. Presentation wise, we already mentioned the iconic square bottle here. So I mean, it's a very common bottle for Johnnie Walker. I think pretty much every single release of Johnnie Walker is in the same style of bottle. Classic, like the look of it. Slanted label, walking man. They've got the label here. There is really no more information on this, guys. On the back, it just says what it is, where it was imported from, and the fact that it comes from Diageo. So again, said it once, I'll say it one more time within the same minute. Wish we had more information, Diageo. I don't know if you can help us out with that, but maybe this isn't for the nerds. But even still, have a little bit of pride in your product, have a little bit of pride in your brands and your distilleries that are underneath your portfolio. Just share it with us, even if it's just a little bit of a look inside of what it features. But anyways, classic bottle, classic label, no more information. I wish they had more. With that, we'll move into the pour. These bottles are, number one, it's a twist top. These bottles, you have to kind of get right in there, I find. Otherwise, you get the old dribble. Nothing wrong with the screw cap either, guys. All right, we'll take a look at the liquid here. Obviously, it's got to have color added to it, but we'll go in close so you can have a look at it here. They don't really specify, again, maturation process or anything like that. 12 years of age on the liquid. The blend of single malts and grain whiskeys there. I'm getting a bright amber color, but again, that's the coloring talking. But that's what they're looking for, and it plays well. It's a nice color, easy on the eyes, and you know what? That's probably what they were looking for. Yeah. All right. Usually I'd let this mellow out and kind of hang around for a little bit, being that it does carry a 12-year-old age stamp. Blended Scotch, I'm not gonna let it sit around too much because it's pretty lively anyway. So we will get into the nose and see what we can get out of the Johnnie Walker Black Label Blended Scotch Whiskey with an age stamp of 12 years of age. Let's go on the nose. So on the nose, it's fairly simplistic nose, and there is a bit of harshness into it. It's more towards the tail, and it's just kind of like this. It's just something. It's kind of like this bitter, kind of astringent note that I usually get from high grain whiskey, like high content of grain whiskey inside there. And it's probably also kind of driven by the quality of casks used too. There's a little bit of bitterness in there, but again, it's astringency. It's an alcoholic note. It smells like alcohol on the back end. But before you get into that kind of alcoholic bitterness, astringency, it does have some character to it. Simple character that you would expect from a lot of entry-level Scotch whiskeys. I'm getting some nice green apples on there, some honey. There's caramel and toffee in there. A good dose of vanilla. There is quite a bit of vanilla, and then kind of a bit of chocolate at the end. It's kind of more of just a milk chocolate. And then again, just that bitter graininess, cereal notes. Yeah, it's just kind of this grain alcohol kind of note at the back end. I probably sound like a big snob when I say it that way, but it's just this kind of like it's a bitter, it's a alcoholic note. It's off-putting to me. Anyways. Let's get into the palate and see what we can get out of the Johnnie Walker Black Label Blended Scotch Whiskey. Again, age stamp of 12 years, and we'll get into the palate and see what we can get out of the taste. So, Slanja, to your health, and let's get into this blended Scotch. So where the nose was fairly simplistic, the palate has a little bit more going on for it. Definitely lets you know you're drinking a Scotch. It's got a little bit more dryness to it. Feel of them in the mouth, it's very thin. Hangs on for a minute, but then it dampers off. Fairly thin liquid in my opinion. What am I getting on the palate right off the get-go? It's a healthy dose of vanilla in there, some honey and caramel notes. Then you get some big red apples, like nice red apples, where the nose was more kind of those Granny Smith style of apples. This is much more, I would call, Red Delicious, or a Gala kind of thing, or a Macintosh. Much more crispier, much more fresher, much more sweeter on there. And then I get this little bit of bitterness, which is kind of would contribute to the casking. Go for one more sip. Yeah, you get those fruits and caramels and whatnot. A little bit of bitter oak, and then a touch. I just mean a kiss of a little bit of smoke, a little bit of peat, a little bit of ash. Campfire ash. Campfire's out for the night. You had a small fire and a little bit of ash blew up into the air, and you kind of got some on your taste buds there. That's really all I'm getting on it. Then it kind of finishes off with a little bit of cinnamon burn, a little bit of white pepper burn, but it's kind of attributed, I think, more towards the casking and that oak bitterness. But it is fairly warming, and honestly, from the palate versus the nose, the palate's much nicer than the nose would interpret. So it does have that going for it. With that, we'll move into the finish, and I'm going to go in for one more sip here, and I'll give you my thoughts on the finish and my final thoughts. So one more sip, guys. So I think, not one of my more favorable reviews, I would definitely say. I'm not a big Johnnie Walker guy to begin with. This is actually one of my more, I would say, if I'm out at a bar and I want to order something, I probably would order this if they had it on the bar and it was the only thing they had, without issue. as far as the finish is concerned, very short finish. 15 seconds at the most, I would say. It doesn't really linger. Sweet, approachable. I find, yes, it uses maybe there's 29 different types of whiskeys used in this. I would say, the portion of those 29, a good portion of this is going to be grain. And I mean, that's okay. That's the way they wanted to do the blend, and that's the way it's sold for years probably. But again, from a quality standpoint, you're not getting those higher quality single malts. You're kind of focusing on this bit of grain whiskey that's cheaper to make, cheaper to manufacture, and all that kind of stuff. I'm not a big fan of it, in my opinion. But again, I don't know the ratios. It just, to me, it comes across as very grainy. A lot more so than like the Isle of Mist that we reviewed. A lot more so than the Cutty Sark that I reviewed, 12-year-old not too long ago. Faring it up against that, we can talk about that when we get to the value proposition. But the Cutty Sark 12-year-old, much more sweeter, much more kind of lively. But again, I think there's less grain whiskey used in it, and I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion of it. With that, let's move to the value proposition and talk value on the Johnnie Walker Black Label blended Scotch whiskey. I looked it up on the LCBO. I think it's on value right now, or on markdown right now. $66 you can pick this up for. Again, decent price. I think you got an age stamp on there. It's a reputable brand. If you're looking, if you're going out, you're wanting to buy something for you and your buddies to drink. I think everybody knows who Johnnie Walker is and what Johnnie Walker is. So you're gonna have a name that's on the bar that everyone knows and is familiar with. I just think, if you really want to go looking, there is better options out there. And I've already mentioned two of them with the Isle of Mist 8-year-old and the Cutty Sark 12. The Cutty Sark Prohibition, I think, is a great one too. There's some releases from Dewar's too. I would not stray away if you're looking for a good blended Scotch. I don't necessarily think it's bad. I think that needs to be kind of said. It's just very, very pedestrian, very meh. Would it make a good cocktail? Yes. Is it got a lot more going on for it than the red? You're darn right it does. Is it peaty? No. Does it have a good character of a bunch of different Speyside distilleries in it? I would focus on the fact that it's like, it really focuses heavily on those Speyside flavors. And, honestly, from an entry level, that's probably what they're looking for. And they've achieved that in there. I just think, if you really looked hard enough, I think you can find something out there that's a little bit more budget friendly, a little bit more, I hate to say the word cheaper, but a little bit cheaper and a little bit sub that $60 range that's still going to be happy with. But again, if you're buying it, a lot of times you're just buying it for the brand. And for $66 on an entry level Scotch, blended Scotch whiskey with a decent name on it there, you do you and go out and pick it up. I would recommend you go somewhere else and try something else. But you know what? Honestly, it's not that bad. I just think there's better options out there for the price. So with that, guys, we'll wrap up this review of the Johnnie Walker Black Label blended Scotch whiskey with a 12-year-old age stamp. Maybe this is your favorite. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe you want to try and sway me. Put some comments down. I would love to hear from you about that. And if you like what we're doing here at Seaway Whiskey Wire, you guys know the drill. Like and subscribe down below. And hey, don't forget to check me out on Instagram at Seaway Whiskey Wire for more content. And if you guys are still down here, or still on here watching me down here in the basement having a dram of Johnnie Walker Black on a weeknight after a long day of work, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for tuning in and supporting the channel. I love doing these videos for you guys. And I get to have a lot of fun, tried a lot of different stuff. And one I haven't had in a long while was the Johnnie Walker Black Label, until my buddy Jake lent me his bottle and let me go through it a few more times, make some notes, and present my thoughts and opinions to you guys out there. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Jake, for lending me the bottle. And with that, guys, I'm going to sign out and go finish up this wee dram of Johnnie Walker Black Label and get to some editing. So cheers to your health, and I'll see you around, guys. Bye.